Welcome to the Astro Psyche. This is your weekly astrology forecast for November 20th through the 26th. So this week we have themes that are very focused on the Sun, Mars, and Saturn. So we're going to explore what that may look like for you this week, especially what those planets and their placements and aspects may symbolize for us. My name is Shauna McGrath. I'm a psychotherapist and astrologer, and I'm really excited to share the astrology of this week with you so that you can make the most out of it. So let's talk about what's going on. So, okay, yes, first, we are in the waxing phase of the lunar cycle. And so during this week, we're in this process where the emotional cycle, the emotional tone, monthly, day to day, week to week, is in an upward, outward swing. So this means that emotionally and also to some extent physically, just our day to day dealings, there is a symbolic, energetic emphasis on moving forward, on growth, on enhancement, on putting things out into the world. And so for a lot of us, this may be a time where emotionally we feel more energized or more like doing, or it can also simply feel like a time of busyness. And for many of us, this coincides with moving into a holiday season. And so I think that's important to keep in mind, is that there, regardless of astrology, there's kind of more of a lot of doing and planning and prep this week, it feels like. And then the astrology also mirrors that with more extroverted and action-oriented kind of energy. And so this week, we have the moon moving through Pisces, Aries, and then Taurus. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that more in a moment. But I just want you to keep in mind, this is kind of the emotional tone of the week. Also this week, we have both the Sun and Mars leaving Scorpio and moving into Sagittarius. Now, I think it's very interesting because both of these planets, there's more of an association traditionally around themes of masculine or paternal or action versus doing and being and feeling. Now, the Sun is a symbol of our consciousness, what we're consciously aware of, our ego, that part of ourselves, the healthy part of us that differentiates between our own self, thoughts, feelings, identity, and that of others. The Sun is also associated with our inner vitality, that spark that animates us. And the Sun also, transiting wise, the transiting Sun puts a spotlight, puts a focus month by month on the sign that it's in and the planets that it aspects. In this case, this is going to be the Sun aspecting Saturn in this case. And so the Sun is kind of like, I think of it as like where our conscious attention is focused. And so for the past month or so, our conscious attention has been in the realm of Scorpio. Sun has been in Scorpio for the past month. So themes around like really getting into the root of something, focused on deep, intimate bonding relationships where there are feelings and reciprocity, and how we feel about this, how we navigate boundaries in relationships, and how we navigate also, like this is very Sun in Scorpio, is differentiating between our thoughts and feelings and the thoughts and feelings of others, and how we stay in relationship and then also maintain our own sense of integrity and self. Now, Mars has also been in Scorpio with the Sun here, and the Sun and Mars are very close together in the sky this week as well. And so I think this is important too, because it's like the consciousness, the awareness, the Sun is sitting with the planet that symbolizes physical action, fighting for something, being assertive, being direct. This is all Mars. So Mars is kind of like the muscular, physical kind of energy and initiative, whereas the sun is more of that when you feel moved to do something, when it's like it's that part of you that animates you, that is in it, we can't really point to it. It's sort of like this spiritual or energetic kind of energy, that feeling that animates us. And so so when the sun and Mars are together, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of passion, there's drive, there's desire, there is wanting to act, wanting to do something. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how this works for us, because these two at the beginning of the week, they start out at the end of Scorpio. So Scorpio is a fixed sign and it's a water sign. So it's really more about rooting into things. So with the sun and Mars, when I see those in Scorpio together, it's more, to me, it's more about like rooting into something and exploring something and going very deeply into a particular matter. And then when we go into Sagittarius, the sun and Mars this week are both moving into Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. So mutable signs are about transition and change. They're really about paradox. They're about being this as well as that, and holding two worlds that may seem like they conflict with one another. And fire is about enthusiasm, inspiration, passion. It also has this changeable sort of feeling tone to it. And Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter. So we're moving from like this sort of like very introspective and investigative kind of energy of Scorpio to Sagittarius, which is more about change and transition and transmutation and exploring new things. It's there's more of a sense of moving up and out and expansiveness and exploration versus going in and going deep. And so I think it's important to keep in mind that the sun and Mars are still together as they're making this change. And so there's still this intensity around wanting to move forward with something, wanting to figure something out, wanting to bring consciousness to our physical actions. Consciousness being the sun, Mars being physical actions. And so I think, that at a practical level, this may be somewhat of a sense of maybe relief, or kind of like feeling like we can relax a little bit when the sun and Mars move into Sagittarius, because Scorpio, there's a concentrated focus to it, and the feeling tone is very different when any planet changes from Scorpio into Sagittarius. It's kind of like there's a laser-like focus. And then with Sagittarius, we can pull back and look at the broader picture, the broader strokes. And I think it's important to say that both perspectives are really helpful for us. And so I think that there may be sort of like a feeling of relaxing, and maybe even sort of a feeling of getting a broader perspective on something that you may have been really focused on for the past month or so, especially. Now, the other piece of this that's happening is that Saturn is still in Pisces, right? Saturn moved into Pisces March of 2023. And it moved forward by, I think, like 5 degrees over the course of this past year, and then it retrograded back. So it is currently at 0 degrees of Pisces. So this means that when the sun and Mars moved into Sagittarius, they're going to immediately make a square to Saturn. And we know this because Sagittarius and Pisces are both mutable signs, and that means they make a square. So square aspects are, there's usually a bit of like tension. They usually signify experiences that require action from us, that put us in a position where we either need to pivot or make a change or make a decision, or where it kind of is like, ugh, I need to do something about this situation. And there can sometimes be some discomfort here. When I see, so let's break it down a little bit, because there's Sun square Saturn and then there's Mars square Saturn. When I see Sun square Saturn, this to me is, there's usually themes that come up around our sense of self-confidence, our sense of responsibilities and duties and commitments, and how we feel. I think like our sense of integrity and authenticity, and even I would say our capacity in what it is that we're committed to and what it is that we're responsible for, the things that we have chosen to take on versus the things that may feel like burdens, or maybe that we didn't have the choice in taking on. And then with the Sun being involved here, this very much connects in. So all of these Saturn themes around boundaries, commitments, responsibilities, devotions, the Sun is connecting into the part of us that feels a sense of self-value and worth and identity around our responsibilities. And when there's Sun square Saturn, we can feel like really empowered to rise to a scenario. And if it feels like too much, there can kind of be a feeling of feeling deflated, or like we're being pressed down. There can be a feeling of heaviness here. And so I would just notice this again. Like, I think this really depends on your current circumstances, your current temperament, and of course, how these transits are connecting into your birth chart in particular. So for you, if you already know that you're experiencing a Saturn transit, transiting Saturn to something in your personal birth chart, this is going to connect in because the Sun is sort of like pinging on Saturn. The other piece of this is the Mars square Saturn. So Mars is, we talked about Mars being physical action, initiation, confrontation. Mars is really about being direct and like no nonsense about things. It's also that part of us that is an initiator, that is a the warrior kind of energy, and the part of us that wants to be an advocate for ourselves or for others. And when we have Mars square Saturn, there's kind of this like wanting to do things. And when we're thinking about Mars, Mars is motivated by quick results and action. And then Saturn has this, in contrast, in comparison, Saturn has a slow and steady energy that really benefits from experience built slowly over time. And so when there's a square here, you know, the classic feeling, or things that we talk about astrologically, is that it can feel like we want to move forward, Mars, but there's something that is preventing us from doing so, Saturn. And I think it might feel that way this week. I think that the other ways that this may manifest is that there's really something that we feel fired up about, that we feel passionate about, that we feel excited about. Could be something that we feel agitated about. And then what is the anchor for that? What is the purpose for that? This passion, excitement, anger, agitation, what is the root of that? Is that coming from a place of us feeling like we have choice and power and we are responding to something? Or is it something where we're kind of like fighting against something, and we're feeling, I think with Saturn, sometimes we can feel trapped, or we can feel like a sense of powerlessness. And so I think it's really important to notice, okay, what is it that we're fighting for or against? And I think this is very relevant also as many of us are going into a holiday week or a holiday season where we may be around um, family or people that we haven't seen in quite some time. And so I think this week it's really helpful to slow things down and to question or to be curious about the feelings that we're having and to, as much as we can, um, make conscious responses from our feelings versus instinctual reactions. And I know that's easier said than done, but this is kind of what's coming up as I'm seeing this astrology. And I wonder how this is all sitting with you and how you're feeling about this. Let's see, what else did I want to say about that? Okay, so the last piece that I'll say about this is that this also feels really important because Saturn is continuing to move forward in Pisces, and it will continue to move forward over the next, several months. And so I think that this is also a week, a moment in time where we're really concentrating the energy into Saturn at this particular point in Pisces. And so this may even remind us of scenarios that we experienced when Saturn first moved into Pisces in March and April of 2023. So again, just kind of something to notice and to pay attention to, because when we look at what our experience was when Saturn was here at this place, we can kind of get a feel for how we may be feeling this week. Okay. So I'm going to pull some cards for you, but I also wanted to mention our next lunations for you to keep in mind. So we have our full moon that's coming up at 4 degrees of Gemini on Monday, November 27th, exact at 1:16 a.m. Pacific time. And then the next new moon is on Tuesday, December 12th. That's happening at 20 degrees of Sagittarius at 3:31 p.m. Pacific time. So those are kind of the next lunation markers. Okay, so we're just going to take a few breaths together here. And if you have a particular scenario or query, question, you can hold that in your heart softly. So first card is the Seven of Swords. And this card to me usually comes up. So the imagery, the figure is this person that kind of looks like they're hesitantly holding two swords, and the rest of the seven swords are kind of like hovering around them, and they kind of look like they're stepping up on a rock or a stool or something. So this card usually comes up when a person is kind of like trying to like cut corners or get away with something. There's kind of like an element of like not necessarily deceit, but kind of like trying to make things look like they're a certain kind of way. So I'm curious how this may read with the other cards, but this to me is kind of like a reminder to be in your integrity, because that's what this card is really about, is like this feeling of trying to like it's like not even like I want to kind of separate out like the moral badness that can come out when we talk about this, but it kind of feels like there's this quality of trying to like get out of a difficult situation, because there's a fear possibly of confronting something that is difficult because it would be, uncomfortable or inconvenient or whatever. As I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about those of us who are uncomfortable with the directness of Mars kind of energy. So this is kind of like wanting to passively shy away from something and kind of like not confront something directly. So I don't know, maybe that's something that is happening in your life. I'm curious what comes up when I share that. And then the second card is the Three of Wands. And so in this particular card, this figure is holding what looks like three wands, and they're kind of like bending them into a U sort of shape. And this card usually comes up when there's like a need to ask for help, to ask for assistance in order to get to be where it is that you want to be. And I actually am feeling compelled to read from the guidebook for this particular one. So in this particular deck, the message is the first step has already been taken. The path has begun. Be patient and confidently take it step by step. You have everything to overcome this road. Oh, wow. What a beautiful message. Okay. So like you can do it is kind of the message here. This is very interesting. So I think that's interesting. Like the first card, the Seven of Swords, even the figure's facial expression, there's kind of this sense of uncertainty or maybe insecurity. I'm thinking of the sun square Saturn is insecurity. And then the second card is about knowing that you can do like whatever it is that has been initiated has started and you can do it and you can move forward, and it's about one step at a time. I also really see the Three of Wands about like asking for or seeking for support when and where you need that, even if it is simply asking your spiritual guidance team or your ancestors or any, benevolent spirits that you work with, asking for spiritual guidance or spiritual support, essentially, too. Okay, third card is the Page of Pentacles. So pages are about new information, new messages. They kind of have this mercurial kind of quality to them. I always think of pages also as not just messengers, but they're kind of also mercurial in that they move between worlds. They go from one place to another, and there's sort of there's a bridging kind of quality between one thing and another. And when we're talking about the Page of Pentacles, this is about practical matters, work, business, the structure of your life, family matters, things like this. And the Page of Pentacles is about gaining new information that is helpful at a very practical level. And I think because this is coming toward in the end position, it's also about having a different perspective on your life and how things are, and sort of like a change in perspective, and clarifying. I think as I'm looking at this, clarifying on how to move forward. So there's something, this is the first card, the Seven of Swords. There's something that you maybe feel nervous about or that you want to avoid because it feels uncomfortable. We all have those things, right? But there is encouragement to move forward in whatever way it is that works for you, right? Only you know what that is. But there's encouragement to move forward and to know that you have the resources at your disposal in order to do so, that you are capable, that you are okay. And that by doing so, by moving forward and like really stepping your foot down confidently in the best way that you know how, that there is new information that comes to you, whether that is internal or whether that is information that you receive from someone else or even from your dreams or something like this, that there's new practical information that comes to you that helps you to become more wise, which is, I think, a big part of the page. So I hope that you found this helpful. I always love hearing from you on how these things resonate with you and how you're doing in general. If you like these weekly forecasts, I would absolutely love it if you leave a rating, a review, wherever you're watching or listening to this, or share it with a friend, because that helps more people to get exposure to these. So I am sending you so much love and wishing you a wonderful week. I will see you next week. Bye.